We're in.
And we're off.
Let's have a look, see what's going on there. Grand, right. There we are.
Look like a little
We're up
person
and running.
sat down
Right, and
Hopefully we'll not have more people watching Tony this time.
2 people watched last time. Hi Sarah, how are you? So, here we are with episode 2 of, well, I don't know what we call it really. It's Jonathan and Tony talking about mortgages and me talking about whatever's going on in Grantham really in terms of property. And today we've been joined by Sharon Galley. Sharon is a Grantham lady, lives in town, works for a very, very impressive conveyancing company and has been a licensed conveyancer for
5 years.
5 years, and recently promoted into the directorship, if that's right.
That's right.
Yeah, fantastic. So we brought Sharon in really to answer any other questions there might be regarding the process of selling and buying. Excuse the wind. We haven't ordered this weather. So we've brought Sharon in really to talk about any questions you might have, and we can take questions whilst we're live, and if we don't know the answers or we can't see the questions, we'll come back to you with it on another time. But if we can answer them straight off, we will do. But just wanted to invite you to ask any questions, whether that be mortgage related or property related, or indeed to do with the conveyancing process. But we've got Sharon here, we've got her for a half an hour period, so I just thought we'd ask a few questions, because there's a lot of challenges in the process of selling and buying. Not only is there the mortgage aspect, surveys, searches. People often get these sort of things confused. So what does a good seller look like to you, Sharon? When they go into the market and they're thinking about moving, what could a buyer be doing to make their life easier?
The buyer.
Sorry,
or
the seller.
seller.
Seller doing to make their life a little easier.
Very trick questions.
Yes.
To start with. I would say, as part of the seller's preparation process to sell a property, at the forefront of their mind should be which solicitor do I want
Sure.
to act for me in the sale. So again, as part of their sale preparation,
Yeah.
they can be ringing solicitors, getting quotations for their conveyancing
Needs.
work. Sale and purchase, and getting a solicitor instructed as soon as possible, because before you've even got a buyer, there is quite a lot of prep work that can be done with your solicitor. There's a lot of forms to fill out as a seller, which will be needed to go into the contract pack that is sent to the buyer's solicitor, which effectively starts your ball rolling. So the sooner that is all done, you can be, as I say, these forms that you're filling out ask for various, certificates, guarantees. It jogs your memory, things that you perhaps wouldn't think about. So if you've had new windows, if you've had an extension, if you've had this, if you've had that, these forms will prompt you to look for all of that paperwork.
Yeah. So new boilers and wood burning stoves and all that sort of stuff.
All of these works require a certificate of some kind, which is all really helpful in the legal process of selling your property. So you can be looking for those, you can be getting those to your solicitor, so that the minute you accept an offer on your property, your solicitor is ready to go and get that contract pack out. Yeah,
and talk to me about the dangers of not having all that stuff ready. So let's just say we've had an extension, but we ain't got no paperwork that we can lay our hands on, or we use an open file, we haven't got a chimney swept. What would happen on the other side, the buyer solicitor? What would they be looking at there?
It depends. I mean, those are two very different things. If you're talking about an extension that has been built with building regulations and planning if needed, but you haven't got the certificates, then they can be obtained fairly easily. If you've built them and you didn't get building regulations and or planning permission, which is quite often the case, your builder will tell you you don't need it, don't worry about it, and then it comes about that actually you did. You know, that it's an issue, but it's an issue that can be resolved normally with an insurance policy, which most buyers, and more particularly buyers' lenders, will accept and be happy with.
Okay.
But yeah, generally, if it's things like chimney sweeping, boiler servicing, obviously as a buyer's solicitor, I like to see that boiler has been serviced, particularly in the last 12 months. But it is not a legal requirement to sell your property with an up-to-date boiler service, gas fire service, chimney sweep, things like that. The onus is on the buyer to ensure that all of the appliances in the property are in good working order.
Yeah, okay, great stuff. And then let's flip that around. So you're working for a seller, they've just accepted an offer on their own home, they go out excitedly, they find the home of their dreams. Obviously there's a big process that starts with buying a property as well, and obviously that starts off with perhaps taking that initial paperwork, but also instructing searches. Talk to me about searches. A lot of people get searches and surveys mixed up, so obviously surveys are a very different thing.
Yeah, they are two completely different things. So the survey, generally, they would a buyer would arrange themselves. Normally with a bit of help from their estate agent as to the best surveyor to use, but searches is something that your solicitor will deal with. Now these are particular searches that are personal to the property, and they normally include a local authority search, an environmental search and a drainage search.
Okay.
The local authority search will effectively search the local authority for things like planning permissions, building regulations. It will tell us that whether the road that the property is on is adopted, whether there are any public footpaths running near or through the property, whether there are any enforcement notices attached to the property that the council might have issued, and the drainage search will tell you where your drains are, where your sewers are, where your water mains are, whether you're on a meter, whether you're not. And the environmental search looks at things like flooding, radon, subsidence in the area, and generally things like that.
So from your point of view as a solicitor acting for a buyer, then it gives you a lot of information that you can then advise your client in the right way.
If you're buying with a mortgage, you've got to have those searches because the lender will insist on them. If you are a cash buyer, it is, the standard solicitor advice is have searches carried out because we believe in them. We believe it gives you all of the information that you need to confidently buy that property.
Sure.
But generally, as a cash buyer, searches would be up to you.
Yeah, great stuff. And at the moment, local authority searches are taking a little while in SKDC, but that's not generally the case in the wider area, is it?
No, I mean, I have instructions up and down the country. South Kesteven appears to be having a particular problem with local authority searches at the moment. Their lead time, I believe, is 25 working days.
But in real terms, it's probably actually more than that, isn't it, when we look at what's coming back at them?
Yeah, it's kind of give or take, really. Whereas other areas, they're coming back within a week, within 2 weeks, which sort of 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, is the norm.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. But unfortunately, at the moment, the Grantham area local searches are holding things up.
And you were saying to me before we came on camera that in Lincoln you perhaps have some search orders going on a Monday.
Yeah, they seem to be on it at the moment, and yeah, the kind of Lincoln area are coming back within a week.
Really? Good Lord.
So that really highlights the importance of
Yeah.
It does.
getting the
because,
instruction
you
in
know,
early and getting the searches.
Well, it does, you know,
ordered.
because
Yeah.
whilst I can be doing everything possible, just waiting for that search to come in, it is inevitably still going to delay.
Yeah.
You know, and there are some firms of solicitors out there that won't actually review your contract pack until searches and mortgage are all in, and they'll review it all together.
Okay. That's more delays, isn't it? That's.
Well, in my personal view, I like to review the contract pack and get my initial inquiries out so that they can be being dealt with.
Yeah.
And then, if necessary, follow up with any specific inquiries on the local search when I get it.
Good stuff. Jonathan, obviously, mortgage market's changing at the moment.
Yep.
What's the latest in the last month? What would you sort of say has been the takeaway from the last month for you?
I think the thing that sticks out is rates changing constantly at the minute.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a base rate increase, and I'm finding that lenders are reviewing their products almost weekly at the minute. You know, there's some lenders that are changing it. You know, there's one particular lender that sticks out, and they change their products twice in 1 week. So things are moving very quickly at the minute in the market, and that's off the back of the base rate increase. But also, and I think we touched on this in the last episode, it's also a way of controlling the amount of applications that are actually coming in to a lender. So lenders will actually increase rates more substantially than what they normally would.
Yeah.
Just as a way of, you know, controlling the flow really of applications. So yeah, that's the biggest change really, is the products that are changing, the rates that are changing constantly.
We've got a few people watching. I'd like to say hello to Chris Fields, who's commented good evening. Ingrid Dean, good evening. Hope things are well.
Hi,
and the
everyone.
bridal business is going well. And Angie Greensmith, hi Angie, hope you're well. One of my second listings, can you believe, Angie? That was almost a year ago. So today's May the 26th. I'm around 3 weeks away from completing a year. I don't know where that year's gone. It's madness. That's absolutely crazy. Okay, so the mortgage market's constantly evolving and moving. Conveyancing has its challenges at times. I'm sure I look at what you do on a day-to-day basis with great admiration, because it seems to me like every day has its challenges. What's the biggest challenges you face at the moment in this current market from a conveyancing point of view? From an agent's point of view.
On the spot there.
From an agent's point of view, I think it's in complete change. For example, we know there's a lot of people who are buying at the moment and sell a property, but then they can't find what they want to buy.
Yes, that is an issue. Yeah. People are, like you say, selling a lot quicker than they anticipated, and then it's like, oh, I need to find our next, our next onward. And so there can be a gap in between getting instructed on that purchase because they've sold so quickly. Because obviously it's taken, you can't just buy the first thing that you go and look round. So yeah, a lot of people at the minute are having to have quite awkward conversations about completing their sale and potentially moving in with family, and until they find that purchase or it catches up, so as not to keep the rest of the chain waiting, which it's not ideal.
No.
I would never recommend to any client to break a chain, because you are making yourself homeless effectively. You don't know how long you're going to be, you know, in the mother-in-law's back bedroom for effectively, and you know, it's not a great scenario. You know, you've got 2 kids, dog, cat, and
I mean, for some people it could work. Couldn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you haven't got a family, or
Yes.
you've got no
I
dogs
don't-
or
I don't,
nothing
I
like.
don't like it because I try and put myself in my client's shoes,
Yeah.
and I try and imagine somebody asking me to do that, and
Yeah.
you know, in a lot of situations, I try, like you say, I try and imagine it's me having to make that decision. What would I think? And you know,
I think it's one or two scenarios where actually it's almost been the sensible thing to do. There's a couple of clients in particular, one I think completes on Tuesday, and again, it's clients of mine, and they took the brave decision to chain break, and they've been through the mill, but I think they recognise that they'd kind of, you know, secured remarkably good money for the property they were selling in the type of area it was at. And I suppose it's that sense of kind of sell and run for the hills with the money in your pocket, and then see what develops in front of you. It is a brave step nonetheless, whichever way you look at it.
We had a couple complete on Monday, mutual clients, and again, their sale completed quite a while ago. And you know, for one reason or another, their purchase has taken until now to be at the point of completion, and you know, for they're finally in and they're over the moon. You know, we're all over the moon for them.
Yes.
But yeah, you know, I think that was probably you know, just a touch longer than they anticipated that was going to be for. But it was through, you know, nobody's fault. It was just the look of the chain.
Yeah, I can think of another one just like that as well, where they've chain broken. Again, had probably a 2 or 3 weeks sort of sabbatical between home ownership of where they were and what they did next. But again, it's that balance of trying to keep a buyer on board, isn't it, and keep a buyer happy. The danger is it falls through, goes back on the market, you resell, possibly for more, but possibly for less. And once a property comes back to the market from an agent's perspective, it's very difficult to generate that initial inquiry rush that you get when you first launch, because you are fresh and new and different at that point. Good stuff.
I've just thought of a question actually. For
uh-oh.
Sharon. On. Don't worry, it's nothing too complicated. I have a lot of clients, especially when we're talking about solicitors and quotations, who, you know, approach solicitors and they only seem to get told, Sharon, you know, part of the fee. You know, they only seem to get told, you know, this is what the legal fee is.
The headline.
And then they get a nasty surprise later down the line.
Yeah.
So, and I know from your point of view, you don't operate like that. You provide a full quotation. So why do some solicitors do that?
Well, I mean, the way I operate is obviously we offer a fixed fee.
Yeah.
Which is that my quote to a client is inclusive of legal fee, searches, disbursements, as far as I can see, and VAT.
Yeah.
I do have there are just a few, you know, if the property is, then there will be an additional fee of, because obviously at quote stage I don't know anything about the property.
Yeah.
If it turns out, say, that the property is leasehold, there's an additional fee, because leasehold properties to sell and buy, there is a lot more work to do. And to be honest, I think that's my only add-on, really. I try and, like you say, be as open, as honest, and honest at quote stage as I can. Some firms choose to just give a base fee plus VAT, and then there will be a very small print, you know, in the quote of the additional add-ons that will be thrown on at the end.
Some can be quite nasty surprises, can't they?
It doesn't really help the client though, does it?
No.
It doesn't help the client.
It's not good practice at all, and as I say, it's not one that I would you know, support.
No.
For me, this has always been about making the journey as good as it can be. You know, it's a tough old ride as it is, without throwing in nasty surprises like that. You know, that's.
Absolutely.
I mean, every firm is, you know, governed by their regulator, and you know, there are strict rules in place regarding being open and honest about fees being charged. So obviously, if anybody is having an issue with that, then they should, you know, check where they stand on that basis, really.
But from a client's point of view, you know, they just want to know what they're paying, essentially, don't they? You know, especially a first-time buyer who, you know, are using all of their monies for the deposit.
Exactly.
They want to know exactly what they're going to be paying.
Again, well, I mean, as I say, again, you know, as soon as I get a mortgage offer in, I will draft a completion statement for my clients so that they've got everything set out. You know, it's all set out, and they know exactly, you know, how much is going to be expected from them on completion. They get that, you know, they get that quite early doors so that they can see, you know, what they've got a plan for.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what's the one question you get asked most as a mortgage advisor?
Putting me on the spot now. Probably the biggest question is how much I can borrow. That's genuinely.
There's no straight answer to that, is there?
There could be a blanket answer to it.
Right.
You know, there could be, you know, it could be, you know, typically, lenders will lend 4.5 times income. Typically. But not all lenders work in that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, some lenders will lend slightly more than that. If you earn over a certain salary, they will, the loan to income will increase as a result of that. I think earlier on in the week, one lender announced for remortgagers that they were increasing theirs to 6 times income for pound remortgages.
Are we getting close to irresponsible lending?
That's a good question. I'm not so sure on that. I'm not so sure about irresponsible lending because in the background, they do take into account, you know, ONS figures, Office of National Statistics figures. They are stressing the interest rate in the background as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure about irresponsible lending, but I think lenders are recognising, you know, that they need to do more, especially to help people who, you know, possibly took out a mortgage a few years ago, maybe. You know, maybe they've had changes in their income potentially, and I think lenders are recognising that they need to help people get onto a better rate, because of course the alternative of that, if lenders aren't helping people, then, you know, customers will be stuck on standard variable rates, you know, and some might be classed as mortgage prisoners.
Sure.
So I think it's, you know, it's certainly a positive move. That, you know, lenders are looking at it, and I think more lenders will follow off the back of that as well.
Okay. We spoke about clients earlier this week, didn't we? We sorted out an agreement in principle for Monday, I think it was. But you've had to redo an agreement in principle just before, as he's had an offer sort of placed on the table, which he's looking at having accepted. So why was that?
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier about rates changing all the time. So when I sort of looked at it on Monday, got them a decision in principle, not only based on rates, but based on their own personal circumstances and lenders' criteria.
Yeah.
So today I went back, the rate wasn't as good with the lender that I sourced originally, so I then obtained, you know, did all the research again, and then looked at another lender who was sourcing favourably.
Right.
So it's an ever-changing landscape, ever-changing market. So that's the importance of getting advice, first of all, because rates are changing so frequently at the minute.
Good stuff. We talked last time out about remortgaging and looking at new buyers. Again, that sort of opportunity to secure a rate today still exists with a lot of lenders.
Yeah, I've had several people over the last sort of week or two contact me about remortgages. Hot topic at the minute. I think people are genuinely concerned about what will happen in 6, 9, 12 months time when their rate comes to an end. On the news this week, Martin Lewis, as you know, he's put out a warning there for people looking to remortgage, that the base rate is expected to increase by a further, you know, well, on 2 more occasions this year.
At least, I would say.
At least, yeah. So, you know, if we go with what it's increased with previously, that's 0.25% each time.
Yeah.
So that's potentially another 0.5%
Yeah.
by the end of the year. So that's a bigger reason to look at remortgaging.
It's all opinions, of course, but I did read something
Yeah.
which suggested that it would probably be between 2 and 2.25% by the start of the new year.
Okay.
Which I think would suggest another 4 increases between now and the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So it's all. We'll have to see, won't we? But obviously they've got to do something to try and control inflation, which is half the reason they use interest rates, to turn that dial up a little bit, stop people spending so much, control inflation that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there is a counter danger to that, isn't there? The counter danger being that then people end up in difficult situations with mortgages and various other things.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, a lot of the people nowadays, they've only ever experienced ultra low interest rate environments.
2009 was it? We fell to 0.5%.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, me personally, I've only ever really experienced ultra low rates, so it's going to be a bit of a shock for me when when I come to remortgage.
But I think the 40-year average is something like 5.7%.
Yeah.
So that's the average.
Yeah.
We just have been remarkably, you could call it lucky.
But a lot
also
of
it's done-
people, what you've got to remember is a lot of people have been used to 1%. You know, some people out there will be on probably 0.8%, 0.9%. And you know, when those rates come to an end and then they're suddenly on 3%, 4%, that's a huge increase. And obviously with the house prices, you know, the increase that we've seen, people have had to borrow a lot more as well. So, you know, that's going to be a bit of a shock going forwards, I think, for a lot of people.
Pick the mood up a little bit now. So Sharon, looking at your sorry, not your Facebook page, but looking at your, don't do that, I promise. Looking at your Page Nelson Google reviews page, it seems to me that obviously what you're delivering tonight in terms of honesty and straightforward talking is also coming through in the reviews. It looks like you've got really captured the hearts of people there.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that, I don't know, you know, I just love my job and I get on really well with all of my clients, and you know, I'm a lot of clients, you know, I now regard as friends, which is great. But you know, that initial relationship is, you know, that professional relationship, you know, is very important to me.
Yeah. I think like anything, it's built upon trust, isn't it, as well? They know you're doing the best for them.
Yeah.
You know,
Trust, you know, mutual respect.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just going back a couple of years to, you know, COVID times when property transactions were, for a while there, they were halted completely. You know, it was just devastating for clients. But then the stamp duty holiday came about, which provoked just you know, a waterfall of work, clients, which was, you know, really hard work, but yeah, we got through it, I think. And but yeah, it was really tough, but you know, and the clients were even more stressed, you know, especially as the end of that stamp duty holiday came about, because, you know, they didn't want to miss out. So
And again, people struggle to find
yeah,
onward purchases, didn't they?
this is
and
it. I
everything
think that
else.
was how this all started, wasn't it? It was I think, you know, the stamp duty, because people weren't paying the stamp duty,
Yeah.
it kind of provoked them to look at houses that were probably a little bit more expensive than what they might have looked at if they were paying for stamp duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, that's been half an hour that's rattled past.
Have we got any questions?
No, lots of comments saying need to dash, but we'll catch up on replay. Thanks for all the great content. That must have been talking about your talking there, Sharon, I dare say. Belinda, not sure if you have to send a request to join, but seem able to see and hear everything. Hopefully that means you can hear us rather than unable to hear or see us. It might be, I don't think we've had any technical issues, I think it's been okay. There's been plenty of people watching throughout the evening. But I just want to say thank you very much, Sharon, for coming.
Thank you, Sharon, for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really insightful to see the other side of what goes on, because I think there's this for me has always been about lifting the lid on stuff. You know, it's almost like a dark art conveyancing. What actually is it? What does it actually mean? What do you actually do? What is a what, you know? And if anyone's got any questions on what the process looks like, I'm sure there's stuff we can put together and send across to them anyway. And again, the same with mortgages. You know, mortgages seem to be this thing that, you know, magical, mystical people sort of do this thing where they can get you some money from a lender. It's not all that, is it? But opening it up to make it easy to access for the questions, I think for me was always important. But.
And that's it. It's all about knowledge for me. You know, as I've said before, knowledge is power. And you know, if we can, you know, empower people, that's what we're looking to do essentially.
Yeah, good stuff. I think on that knocking, which my little boy just got back from ballet dancing. He's not ballet dancing, my little girl is. We'll call it a night. But thank you very much for watching.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
If you've got any questions for next time, just drop them in. Oh, it hasn't recorded.